Bitcoin has broken out exactly as I spoke about last week. What does this mean for the price? Where do I see Bitcoin and cryptocurrency going from here? Stay tuned to find out because I'm going to share exactly where I think the market goes next. If you do like this content, please do smash the like, help support the channel, and let's jump into it. So, Bitcoin, you can see here, had broken out of this bull flag that I was talking about last week. I did say if we got a daily close above here, we would see acceleration to the upside. We started to pierce through late last week. Obviously, the breakout happening yesterday, and we're seeing some continuation today. So, Bitcoin and cryptocurrency is looking very, very strong. We also saw Ethereum get through 4,000 as well. So, Ethereum currently trading at 4,000, just shy of 4,250. We've been as high as 4,341, and this was in line with the path that I drew for Ethereum. I was saying a lot of people were starting to get very bearish here, thinking we see a deeper pullback, and I said no. Actually, what I'm seeing is a push higher in August. I saw August being a bullish month, contrary to people that were talking about de-risking and lower prices. And to be honest with you, we might not actually pull back this far anymore on Ethereum. I think what you really want to see if the market is going bullish, which I think it is more shallow pullbacks. And I think we might get a more shallow pullback over the next month. Potentially, we run a little bit higher in August. We see a more shallow pullback into sort of into September, October, bit more chop, bit of sideways, and then we look for a blow off into the end of the year. And I mean, how high does this go? I've got absolutely no idea. All I can tell you is that I think we will make new all-time highs for Ethereum before this year is over and before all is said and done with this bull run. And potentially that has us going into the 5,000s, maybe into towards 6,000. What we can do to get a projection for the Ethereum price is put on a Fibonacci extension here. So if we take previous all-time high to the prior bear market low, and that gives us an extension. What I'd be looking at is this 1.618. That gives us an extension target of about 7.3 thousand. So can we go that high? Can Ethereum hit here? I mean, anything's possible. I'm probably going to be targeting the 20% mark first, which is coming in about 5,600. So this is usually an area that we find some resistance at, a 20% breakout. And then if we can clear that area, I'll have pretty high confidence that we're going to this 1.618. But obviously there'll be other factors included in terms of what's going on with the stock market, what's going on with the news flow. But I think Ethereum can definitely get there. And I really think it happens this year. I really think it happens probably November time. Like I say, at some point, I do think this market will need to cool off before a bigger run up. You're going to have plenty of people that bought the dip or bought the lows earlier this year in Ethereum when it was down sort of sub 1500 that are currently close to a 3x, probably leveraged up to. So there will be some profit taking, I think, between here and 4,500 and probably some consolidation before final blow off into the end of the year. Obviously, this would tie in with the expectation of the stock market as well. So I've been talking about the stock market, potential for stocks to also make a new all-time high later in August. They haven't done just yet, but I think they might well do shortly. And that would take, or that could take the S&P a bit higher towards sort of 6,400, 6,500 before seeing a pullback in September. Again, I'm not completely sure if we get as sharp a pullback as what I'm expecting now. Maybe we come just below the previous all-time high back from February this year when Trump shortly came into office and before all of the tariff scares. That would be an obvious target or level for me around about 6,151. We came close to that on the previous pullback, but of course things got front run. This is very typical of what we usually see towards the end of a bull market. You get accelerated moves higher, you get targets getting front run, you get people's levels that they're looking to buy in not quite hit, and then they have to chase the market higher, which results in sort of higher highs, higher lows, and potentially we don't actually come as low as this low. Maybe we don't actually get that far. So yeah, let's see where it goes, but things are looking really good here, really good here for the markets. And like I say, I do think there is a pullback coming in September, but I think we maybe have another week or two of grinding higher first to go. Obviously, the Nasdaq I think will follow something similar. So you can see here pushing on higher, pushing a bit closer than the S&P is to new all-time highs. Obviously, very AI sort of heavy tech sector with the Nasdaq, and obviously those are the stocks, the growth stocks that are seeing the lion's share of the gains. They're the ones I'm most positioned into in terms of my stock portfolio. Obviously, just going back to the crypto, then if we just take a look at the Bitcoin paths, because some paths have been drawn out. I did say we might get the deeper pullback, but that was my lowest probability scenario. I've been very clear about that I expect us to go higher into the end of August, and that is what's happening. How high do we go? Do we make a new all-time high later August? I'm leaning towards that happening. Do we come up to around 125? Do we go a bit higher to around 130? What this does do is it puts us in a great position to see higher prices next year. I think if we had pulled back in August and September and seen a longer pullback, that would have potentially meant that we would top out at a lesser price later on this year. But what this pump does is it really sets us up to make a new high here, to pull back into a much higher low before then accelerating into the end of this year. And I still think probably most likely is either this golden path or this blue path here. I wouldn't be surprised. They're both very similar. The yellow path or golden path is a bit more aggressive with a higher pullback, which takes us to a higher all-time high sooner than potentially the blue path, which probably gets us to a similar all-time high, but just takes a bit longer to get there. So I think for now, the golden path is what I'm looking for. Do we come so high? I still think we get that shallow September pullback. People at this point will probably be lining up orders sub 120 or even lower. Maybe it's very short and fast. Maybe it's a very fast dip, which sort of scares people out of positions, flushes out the market, clears out any leverage before a much more rapid, aggressive move higher into that blow off. Or maybe it's a little bit more drawn out. But I really think one of these paths does play out, and that would mean that I expect a new all-time high for Bitcoin over the next week or two. So for me, certainly in terms of my portfolio and positions, I'm looking to stay fully allocated for now. Like I say, if Bitcoin makes a new all-time high, I will be looking to trim and de-risk slightly into a late August high to then look to take advantage of any September weakness, get fully positioned again into a final blow off into Q4. We'll take a quick look through some of the altcoins then. So Solana, very much doing its thing. I am expecting Solana to accelerate to the upside at some point. I don't want to see Solana get left behind. It's one of my larger, more high conviction positions. So I do think Solana really starts to get going, and I'd like to see a new all-time high for Solana over the next month. I do think that we're running out of time a little bit for Solana to make that high into the end of August. September weakness, probably pulling back, hopefully above current prices. And then final blow off into the end of the year. So if we get this move in Solana, I will look to de-risk around the 240 mark. SUI as well has started to pick up. So this is a trade that we've talked a lot about, positioning in on a dip into these moving averages, into this yellow box. It's worked out very well for us. We've been able to, I think, pick up SUI at some really good prices here, pulling back a little bit today, but I'd like to obviously see more expansion in SUI. I think after Ethereum has run so well, the next ones to run are going to be your other L1s, are going to be your Solanas, your SUIs. I think they play catch up. We talked about PEPE as well, coming into an area of support here a few days ago, and it's reacted really nicely. It's got above this trend line as well. So PEPE, I think, will get a move on. Obviously, it's an Ethereum beta pick. It's the biggest meme on Ethereum, or in my opinion, it should be the biggest meme. Obviously, you've still got Doge and SHIB that are larger by market cap, but I think PEPE does play some catch up to those big two. And I do think Pepe really establishes itself as the top meme for ETH over the next few months going into the end of this cycle. Can Pepe get back to all-time highs? I think it can. I don't know if we get extension beyond that, but let's see how crazy this market gets and take it from there, really. But yeah, I think Pepe is a good one. It's one I'm still holding. I do at some point think we come back towards these all-time highs, getting above 2,000, maybe up to 2,500, and up to the top of this range here. So Pepe's looking good. Another one I like is Sonic as well. So no secret about this one. It has been a major laggard, and we've been talking about Sonic coming closer to this trend line, potentially front running it. That's exactly what Sonic's done here. It has front run that trend line from the descending wedge, and what I want to see now is really just a reclaim of call it 0.32. If we can get above these highs here and start to push up again, then I think at some point Sonic gets that rotation and really starts to run hard. So it's still one of my high conviction picks. Near as well, consolidating, got above its 200-day moving average, pulling back into that. I think Near runs as well. I think things like Near and Sonic can outperform if we get that alt season into the end of this year. And you can see we're still well off the highs. I mean, obviously the all-time highs, but even the cycle highs for something like Near is well off. I think at some point there will be rotation after things like Bitcoin and ETH have got to, well, Bitcoin has made new all-time highs. If Ethereum makes new all-time highs, I think we'll start to get rotation into a lot of these other alts. So, look, the message really is just to remain patient, is to keep on stacking a lot of these altcoins, these L1s that I think will be the next ones to run in this market. And then you can start to go down the risk curve and look at things like meme coins as well, that I think at some point will get some liquidity when things really start to go crazy. But yeah, I'm gonna leave it there. I will come out with a video soon about some of the meme coins that I'm personally looking at, that I'm positioning into. I'm also going to come out with a video with some picks for the rest of this year, asking, what are, if I had to buy 5 tokens, put my money into to make a good return based on the risk involved over the next few months, what would those be? You've probably got an idea from the videos I do what they'll be, but that's something else that I'll be putting out very soon too. So just to sort of recap and summarize, Bitcoin looking very, very strong. We've taken out the resistance on the bull flag. This is a full-on breakout. I do expect new all-time highs to be made very soon. Keeping one eye on what happens with the stock market. Obviously, stocks looking to get to all-time highs themselves. We spoke a lot about the VIX coming off as well. The VIX has come off to levels that I wanted to see, below 16 now. So this means risk on for the markets. We've got inflation data this week. Obviously, if the inflation data comes in soft, then that's going to give us some nice, I guess, a nice fundamental catalyst going forward. More rate cuts are getting priced in. So there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes on the fundamental side, which is really supporting this move having legs and higher prices to come over the next few months. I still maintain that dips are going to be for buying, and I'm looking to get fully positioned in. Obviously, I am almost fully positioned in, maybe a little bit of de-risking going into September, and then fully positioning in for the rest of the year, I think is the plan for now. So I hope that's been useful. Obviously, stay safe out there with your trading in terms of leverage. Like I say, I do think a correction is coming at some point, but I don't think it will be quite as bad or as violent as many people are expecting. And I do think a lot of people at that point will get overly bearish, start to give very sort of low targets or adjusting targets, or saying, oh, it's going to go a bit lower, and they'll end up getting front run. And I really think at this point in the cycle, you don't want to try and time the market. You don't want to try and time every single pump and every single dip, because you're going to get chopped up. You're going to lose money. I think it really is just a case of getting good positions in on good quality tokens that we know are going to have network effect, that we know have strong communities, that we know are going to run at some point later this year, and really just holding for that upside and making sure you at some point take your profits, but I'll get to that. I'll talk about taking profits nearer the time when it is time to look to be getting fully out of this market, which is probably only a few months away. So we are in the later stages, and yeah, it's time. The opportunity is here, and this is when the best gains come. So this is the time to be involved. So have a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you all on the next one. GM, GM, GM.